I had a hallucination that I was at the bottom of a stairwell, lying on the floor, and that there was the doctor in there, and he kept telling me that I was alone, that nobody was looking for me, and that, I might as well give up.
Aleah Davis lived through a nightmare that she wasn't even fully aware of because she was too drugged to know what was happening.
They were over-medicating to the point where, I didn't know if I was upside down or sideways.
What happened to Aleah Davis is happening to thousands of elderly residents in nursing homes every day. They're being over-medicated with powerful antipsychotics, often to keep them docile.
Do you have any idea why they gave you so many antipsychotic drugs?
No.
Do you know if your behavior was strange or you were difficult or noisy?
I don't remember. Knowing me, I probably was mouthy.
Aleah was a preschool teacher. She loved dogs and was active in her church. Then at age 68, she fell.
After her fall, Aleah came here to her nursing home in Seal Beach. Now, at the time, it was owned and run by a company called Country Villa. She was on her own. She didn't have kids and no relatives nearby.
On Facebook, and you just...
Yeah, just start typing in dog show and we'll give you all these
Oh,
choices.
cool.
But she had a close friend, Jill Dominguez. It wasn't long before Jill realized something was wrong. Aleah had no history of dementia or mental problems, yet she was confused and unable to communicate. Jill asked to see what drugs Aleah was being given.
The head of nursing, this woman named Colleen, called me and she started reading off these drugs and I'm writing them down. I'm in a hotel room and I'm like, Aricept, Halidol. And I'm like, why are they giving her all this stuff? What has that got to do with having pneumonia and high blood pressure or diabetes?
Haldol, or the generic haloperidol, is a powerful antipsychotic used to treat schizophrenics. The side effects include confusion, anxiety, and depression.
By law, antipsychotics can only be administered with the doctor's prescription and with permission from the patient or the patient's representative.
But it's a step that's often skipped in some nursing homes. Matthew Borden is Aleah's attorney.
They literally call up the doctor on the phone and they say, so-and-so is agitated, so-and-so is upset, and the doctor says, okay, I'm going to prescribe this.
The this, in Aleah's case, was Haldol.
It's the drug that they use to knock down, the worst criminal violent offenders in the California penal system. And they were giving it to her with no consent, with no process. Nobody was reviewing it. It was prescribed essentially over the phone by someone who'd never seen her before.
He also says there are financial incentives to use drugs as chemical restraints on difficult residents.
When you don't have enough staff, the facility makes more money because it's an expense for them to hire people, and the people who live in the facilities are suffering because these drugs have a terrible impact on them.
Jill tried to monitor the drugs.
I said, so who gave you permission to give her these drugs? I don't know. I said, well, the doctor didn't see her. You said she's too crazy to be lucid, so who gave you permission? You didn't call me.
You were not asked permission to give you the drugs they gave you. You don't remember any of that?
No, and I knew I wasn't supposed to have them.
The doctor just complied. Didn't even bother to come in and visit her.
I would say the doctor has broken the law. I would say the facility's broken the law too if they know that the doctor hasn't talked to the patient.
We contacted Country Villa and asked for an interview. They declined.
In our view, the rampant misuse of antipsychotics to chemically restrain nursing home residents is elder abuse on a massive scale.
Michael Connors is with the California Advocates for Nursing Home Reform. One of their priorities is to reduce the use of antipsychotics for dementia patients.
People are literally left in misery because they've been drugged into a state where nobody can figure out what the real problem is. And what happens is they misinterpret expressions of distress as some sort of mental aberration that requires a psychoactive drug.
In 2003, the FDA issued a warning. It reads, elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis treated with antipsychotics are at an increased risk of death. In fact, the risk of death is almost double.
When somebody has been sedated through use of these drugs, those residents are more prone to bed sores, they're more prone to pneumonia, they're more prone to strokes.
If they've got someone with dementia who has these really challenging behaviors, they try everything.
JOCELYN Montgomery is an RN and a former nursing home inspector. She's now with a group which represents nursing homes. She says many nursing homes are well run, but admits there is a problem with over-medicating difficult residents.
So our providers are between a rock and a hard place. Now, hopefully what they try, and more what they try, are what we call the non-pharmacological interventions first. So we are trying to teach our providers to see all behavior as communication and to say to themselves, instead of how do I stop that, to say, what are they trying to tell me?
In 2010, California nursing homes joined a national campaign to reduce inappropriate drugging in nursing homes, and it seems to be working. Antipsychotic drug use in California has dropped steadily over the past 3 years, from 22% of long-term residents to 16%.
That's an incredible drop. So I think we are getting the message in nursing homes, and I think the advocates have been very influential. The regulators have been very assertive and doing their job.
Michael Connors from the Nursing Home Reform Group disagrees.
Federal and state regulators are really not enforcing the law. They're treating this right to be free from chemical restraint, the right to be free from unnecessary drugs, as suggestions rather than requirements.
In early 2011, Jill found a letter that Country Villa had written to the Social Security Administration.
And it says, this patient is no longer to care for herself financially or physically. We are now want you to assign all of her Social Security benefits to us, and we will take care of her. They just tried to drug this woman, take her money against her will.
Jill asked the California Department of Public Health to investigate Country Villa. Among other deficiencies, investigators found that on at least 6 occasions, Country Villa had no documentation to show what and when the use and side effects of various antipsychotics were explained to the patient. They also found there was no documentation of the reason for the use of Haldol. Aleah's attorney filed a lawsuit. Country Villa settled, but did not admit guilt. For Aleah, it was still a victory.
Did you win?
Of course.
Well, not necessarily, of course.
I know, but Matthew, he worked his fingers to the bone, and he won it.
In early 2011, Jill moved Aleah to a different nursing home.
How do you feel now compared to how you were feeling in Country
Oh,
Villa?
I feel 100% better now than I did when I was in Country Villa.
It's clear this case holds lessons for everyone with a loved one in a nursing home. No one knows that better than Aleah Davis.
I always ask what I'm getting, and I'm able to tell when I, get the medication what's in the cup. So I've learned to ask, and I've learned that I have rights.
I'm Val Zavala for SoCal Connected. We contacted Country Villa to request an interview. Their attorney declined, saying Country Villa is in the process of winding down and selling its assets. In fact, Country Villa is currently in bankruptcy court.